All right, let's make a formal introduction for our listeners. Good afternoon, Mike. My name is Claudio. I'm calling you from Washington, D.C., from the studios in Fairfax City. We're very humble and grateful that Mike Visaggio accepted our invitation to our show. Hey, Mike, welcome to the show, man.
Well, thank you, sir. It's always a pleasure and a pleasant surprise when someone wants to do an interview with me. So.
Come on, man. You're very humble.
Well, you know what it is. I give William there from Glass Onion. I give him the credit with connecting me with people.
Yeah.
I'm glad I have him working with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's go back to the beginning, Mike. Were you born like in a musical family? I mean, how old were you when you perhaps began taking piano or guitar lessons?
No, actually, I wasn't. I'm the only one in my family that ever played anything. I decided, I guess when I was 9, which would be 62 years ago, that I wanted to learn to play something, and I had a cousin who played the accordion. And so I said, oh, that looks pretty cool. So I started taking accordion lessons. And one day, I was, believe it or not, this must have been when I was about 12 or 13 or 14. I was learning Beatles songs on the accordion. And I had my front door to my house open in Rosedale. And all of a sudden there was a knock on the door, and there were 4 young kids out there. And they said, man, we heard you playing and we want you to join our band.
Really?
I said, I couldn't believe it, just out of the clear blue sky. And so I went, yeah, that sounds like fun, and I got involved with doing that. And, I remember when I was a kid, my stage costume was an army jacket and a beret. But anyway, I remember we went to play after a while, I decided that I wanted to learn how to play the organ, because I saw Felix Cavalieri and Doug Ingle and people like that from the late 60s. And especially, Doug Ingle didn't play a Hammond organ in those days, but I liked the way he played. And then I saw Felix Cavalieri with the Young Rascals. I heard him playing the Hammond organ, and I said, that's what I want to do with my life.
Really?
But anyway, before I got to Hammond, we went to play the first gig. I remember the first gig I ever played was in a Knights of Columbus Hall in Queens. And it was a dance. Kids from all over Rosedale. I don't even know how they found out about this thing, but they came and we're up there playing In the Midnight Hour and Come On Up and some Beatles songs and such. And I saw all these girls dancing and gyrating to the music, right? And I said, this is cool. This is cool. So I decided I was going to, I figured I wasn't having any luck with the chicks any other way. So I said, I threw myself.
You got to stick with it.
I threw myself into it. But anyway, I wound up meeting a bass player, which is one of the strangest stories, which take me all day to explain to you. I had this organ, and I knew there were some other bands in Rosedale, Queens, that had an organ player, and I would go to see them. And I cajoled my mom and dad into buying me one of these combo organs, right? So, let's just say that I started really getting involved with playing around town, The next thing I know, I met this bass player, and it was right near the end. I guess it was about 1970. I don't even know how I was starting to buy records, right? And everything was vinyl, right? So I lived in Alexander's department store, and I hate to admit it, but I was shoplifting LPs because I had no money, but I wanted the music. So I wound up. One of the things I picked up was an album by a band called Yes. It's called the Yes album.
Yeah.
And I remember I took that home and I dropped the needle on the vinyl, and I heard Yours Is No Disgrace, and I just went nuts. I said, this is unbelievable. And that got me taken into playing progressive rock. There were a lot of bands in those days. I was listening to King Crimson, Gentle Giant, bands like that. But I wasn't really getting anywhere, and I got married, and had my first wife and I had a couple of babies, and I wound up playing in a wedding band.
Wow!
Now we're in the early '80s, and I eventually just got to the point where I was saying, I'm still not. This is not what I want to do. But I was driving taxi cabs and pickup trucks for a living, right? And I said, well, if I'm going to drive for a living, and limousines, I said, I was about 20 years old by then. I said, I'm going to go get my commercial license and learn how to drive big trucks. And that's what I did. And I spent a long time, many years, driving big trucks all over the country. And my music just was on the back burner. Didn't do a damn thing with it. We moved to Richmond here, and I met a guitarist who he was playing with the drummer that's in my band to this day. And I decided, he likes. I played him some of the music that I was trying to write, and he eventually said, "Yeah, let's do this." And so Kinetic Element was kind of born that way, and it's been in existence now ever since then. We got a guitarist who changed the sound of the band. And later on, we did some shows and we didn't have a bass player. I played left-hand bass because one of the bands that I learned from was the Doors. And, the Doors had Ray Manzarek on the keyboard, and he had a combo organ and a Fender Rhodes left-hand bass, and that's how I was playing until we got a bass player. The next thing, we decided we're going to make a record, and so my friend who I was playing in the wedding band with, back up in New York, by now we're talking what. How many years afterwards this is, but I can't even think. But he put up the money for us to go in a recording studio and record, and that's how Powered by Light came into existence. And once I had that come out, I started sending copies of it. I got online. I was gradually learning who the people were that were involved in progressive rock, and I just started sending copies of it to people. And the next thing you know, one day I wake up and I find out we've got a review.
Wow.
I said, somebody listened to this thing and they liked it.
Well, which magazine? It was like a magazine, a newspaper? Or?
It was a website. It was a website called Progressive Ears, and they're still around. But if it wasn't for Progressive Ears, I'd probably, of course, during that time, I also had gotten a Hammond organ, finally. I got a nice Hammond C2. So I was playing that on that record. And then, when I got, we got Todd and I, the guitarist, we started collaborating, writing much more involved and complicated pieces, came out with Travelog, and that one put us on the map. The critics just went bananas over it. And then the next thing, I had been trying to get Kinetic Element onto one of the festivals.
Right.
The festivals are like the Holy Grail. At least I thought they were. I've since learned that they're nice, but they can't really make you or anything. But anyway, I wound up one of the bands at one of the festivals ran into some hard times and had to bow out of the festival, and the promoter, but who by that time knew who I was and had heard Travelog and seen the reviews. And so in 2016, which is 10 years after we started Kinetic Element, I got a call from him saying, "We need you to come help us out." One of the bands bowed out, and could you guys come and open the festival for us? And I said, "Hell yes," And the same year, I got a call from the guy who runs and the guy that runs Terra Incognita, which is a festival that takes place in Quebec. And so like 3 weeks after we did Rites of Spring Festival, we find ourselves doing another festival the same year. And, for a band that really didn't have anything going for it business-wise before that, all of a sudden, here we are playing on two of the most prestigious stages in progressive rock. And people just started taking notice of who we were. So that was in 2016. And then in 2017, of course, I'm still begging the promoters for a chance, right, at that point. But the gentleman that ran a festival, used to run a festival called Progtoberfest, he put us on there with a main stage, show. And then a couple of years after that, I forgot where we were supposed to play. But we were going to play. Is that the same year? Was that the same year? I guess it was. But I actually put together a mini tour, because don't have the money to stay on the road for any length of time. Didn't have the money to, really do much of anything. But one of the things that I haven't told you yet is that back in the 70s, I was playing with a singer-songwriter by the name of Billy Falcon. And Billy right now is John Bon Jovi's co-writer, if you can believe that. But back then he put together he was getting to be fairly well known around the Eastern United States as a singer-songwriter. And we used to play all over Long Island and in Jersey with that band. And they played us on the radio and such. But anyway, I had made the acquaintance of a man who ran a a venue called My Father's Place in Roslyn. And I just called him up and I said, Epi, you might remember me. I said, I used to play with Billy Falcon. I was his keyboard player. And he says, oh, I remember you. You were the guy that came out in the white tuxedo and the big white hat with the feather in it. So this is like how many, at least 20 years later, maybe more.
Wow.
He said, yeah. He says, but we probably need to get another band up here, because you got any other progressive rock bands that we could put on the bill? And I was friends by that time with a band from Long Island called I spelled IZZ. And I asked them if they would do the show with us, and they said, yeah, sure. So they'd be happy to do it. So we I took the band up to Long Island and then to wherever it was we went after that, or before that. But anyway, wound up getting a big crowd came in. It was really a lot of fun. But then a year after that, we played at a festival that came into existence, I guess, in 2017. It's called Progstock, like Woodstock, only it's Progstock.
Progstock, yeah.
And they are now the festival, to play in the Northeast. And all I can say is there's so many of these festivals. There aren't so many of them. There's enough of them that if you like progressive rock, you just really got to get yourself to one of these festivals. But, they generally go for 3 days, and you will see more mind-blowing music in 3 days than your mind can even take in. So in 2019, we actually finally got invited to headline at a festival, which was called a place in Florida, and the name of the event is Prog on the Ranch, and it's over Halloween, so it's also known as Progoween. But and then I guess I said the right thing to the right people. I had been trying to get us a festival date in Europe for at least 10 years, and finally I guess I said the right thing to the right person over there, and they said, yeah, we'd love to have you come. So, they're not going to pay you. Not going to pay you. But you will get to play in front of, 1,000 people or so that love the kind of music that you guys do. So I managed to talk my guys into doing it. And that was this past April.
But why you were not getting paid?
They don't. Well, the budget's not there. It's like when we played. See, these festivals, they lose money on these things. So what they generally do is they pay the better known names, and the bands that have not graduated to the top tier, of progressive rock. If they want to play, they've got to agree to play for nothing.
Wow.
So we played for free we got paid at Prog at ROSfest. We got nothing for Terra Incognita, except we sold a lot of CDs. Which was
that's what my question. You're able to sell CDs or t-shirts or vinyl. It's like we got paid for Progtoberfest, but not very much, less than $1,000. And when we played, we got paid at come on, what is that? Prog on the Ranch.
We got paid there, but then we had to go to England and pay for free. So I play for free. But that was the most CDs we ever sold. Because you get a merchandise table. And it was gratifying because when the instant they opened the doors, I didn't know we were that well known, and I don't think they knew it either. When the instant they opened the doors, we were mobbed at the merchandise table. People had to have their T-shirts and their CDs. And,
wow, that's pretty good.
And every one of these shows has resulted in a standing ovation. So I know I've got a good band. I know we play good music. But there's so many new bands coming up that are just as good, if not better. New bands, right? That no one's heard of. They're just making a name. And then you've got the top tier bands. They get to go on these festivals and get several $1,000s for playing.
Right. I think the next one is going to be in October, I think, in New Jersey, right? If I remember correctly.
Well, that's the next festival, but we're not booked for it. We're not going to play.
But you know what I'm talking about, right? The next
that's Prog Stock is in.
Yeah, Prog Stock, yeah.
That's going to be October 6th, 7th, and 8th. And I can't remember the names of all the bands, but I tell anybody that if you like progressive rock or some of the subgenres like jazz rock and fusion and neo prog and all this other stuff, some of the people in your audience will know what I'm talking about. Get yourself to that.
Yeah, Dave Kessler is going to be there. Patrick Moraz is going to be
Patrick Moraz is going to be there. That's right. That's right. He's got a solo show, and then he also got some kind of a masterclass thing that he's going to be doing. Yeah. So if you buy the really expensive ticket, you get to go to his little intimate gathering wherever they're having it. So I'm sort of kind of planning to go if I can come up with the money to go. But I don't think my wife is going to take too kindly to it if I go, because I just spent so much money going to Wales.
Yeah, but they're not that expensive. Like, I don't know, the 3 days is like $100 or 50 days. I don't know. I
don't know how much they cost. I haven't looked, but
well, you need to drive there to the hotel, and right.
You got the cost of getting there. You've got the cost of your hotel. You've got the cost of your ticket. And then let's not forget that you have the merchandise. You're not going to want to leave without buying a bunch of merchandise. You're going to want some CDs. You're going to want the CDs. You may want the CDs for the bands that are playing, right?
Yeah.
Or they want the CDs of. I mean, there's I can't even get it out. There's so much great progressive rock out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't. I've got about 300 CDs, right? And I am lagging far behind. I mean, there are people, I'm sure you know, because people that are real avid music collectors, they have entire rooms dedicated to their vinyl and their CDs.
I'm one of them.
And they don't listen to them. They can't possibly listen to them, because there's too many of them. But they feel like they have to have them. So, God bless.
Your wife needs to give you an allowance of, I don't know, $1,000.
No, that's not going to happen, because we have too much else going on. Too much else going on, and I got some health issues too. So, and it costs me money to take care of those. So,
Looking back, Mike, in your life, things that you would have done differently or different decisions.
Would I have done differently? Yeah, I probably would have once I reached the end, once I stopped playing the first time, I probably should have let it go then. Because even though like I like to say, for me, music has been a harsh mistress. She's very cruel to me. I find that no matter how much good, artistically solid music I put out there, I have nothing to show for it at the end. And I've spent literally thousands of hours. God only knows how many thousands of hours I've spent on that computer right there, keeping in touch with people and promoting the band, because I have no one to do it for me. I have no one to help me. The guys in my band, they're good people. They're great musicians, but they're content to let me deal with it, And I guess it makes sense because I'm the one that started it.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm the one that has all the contacts and everything else like that. I just need, but the way I see it is this: what I would have done differently, I probably couldn't have done anything differently because it's a hard thing. It's coming out of here.
I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
And but I know that I can't go on with it forever, and I don't know how much longer I can go on with it. With any, we just put the last one. Every album we make is a better album than the last one, and sells fewer albums because there's too much else going on. Let's face it, right? I can't play in the bars. The people don't want to hear it in the bars. They want to hear Freebird, or something like that. I've never made a big enough name for myself or for the band that even if I had the money to book a tour, I would have nobody that has a business reason to hire us. Because it's all about, you have to show the promoter that you're adding value to his business venture. You can't just go in there and think, well, because I'm so great or because my band is so great that they should put me on their stage. Because if I can't show them that I'm going to bring them some kind of monetary value, there's no reason for them to put us up there. And I don't hold that against them or anything. Excuse me, I have to stop hold on a second.
Bro, take your time, man.
Yeah, hold on a second. Stop it, you son of a gun. Just for the sake of it. Let me see where we're at here. Oh, my sugar level is up way higher than it should be. All right.
The latest album.
That's a great little device because I don't have to prick myself to get my sugar level.
Absolutely, yeah. The latest album, the Chasing the Lesser Light.
Chasing the Lesser Light, yes.
It's a very good album. I listened to last night on Bandcamp. It's a very good album.
That was Peter's idea in 2019. It was 50 years since the Apollo missions, right?
Yeah.
So Peter wanted to do an album that would kind of pay homage to the people that flew into space, and also all the people of the support staff that made it possible, without whom they couldn't have done it. Especially those three women that figured out all the math without benefit of computers.
Absolutely, yeah.
How did they do that?
They were very smart.
That is the wisdom of God, if you ask me. That's because they had nothing to go on. They had no previous work to go on. How did they do it? But anyway, so we did it, and that album took us, I guess, as usual, took us like 2.5 years because I can't get everybody in the same place at the same time on a regular basis. So it's like it took Travelog. It took us 6 years to do Travelog. Took what came after Travel? It took 3 years to do The Face of Life.
Correct. Yeah.
And
it's terrible. Yeah.
They're just trying to get everybody, and see that's another issue with all this, is that everybody is a grown man. Everybody is a bit on the we're all a bit long in the tooth, as they say, right? And it has a lot to do, and then there's a money issue involved too, because there's a lot of times where it's like, how come we got to go out and play a gig and the sound man's making more than we are? Sometimes that attitude makes it difficult, but I can only do so much. So
at least are you selling CDs on Bandcamp enough to to pay the cost? Or
but they're not selling. Everybody knows who we are. Everybody knows that there's an album out there, and Bandcamp is selling a few, and Symphonic is selling a few, and Melodic Revolution Records, our label, they're selling a few, and we're selling a few, but
not enough to record that investment.
You have to sell thousands of CDs. Yeah. And there are bands that can do it. There are some progressive rock bands that are, they have to get reorders from the manufacturers. We don't have to do that because it just, and for matter of fact, on Chasing the Lesser Light, we had been ordering 1,000, right? Have to give away a certain number for promotional purposes, so you don't get paid for those. And it just got to the point where we said, we're so deep in the hole on this that we're not going to order 1,000. We're only going to order 500. And I guess maybe we've sold about 100 so far. So,
where do you keep this stuff? In the basement, at home?
It's out in my garage. I ordered 1,000 of my solo album when I was starting out. Half of them are still sitting in the garage.
Yeah, wow, stuff.
Probably we ordered 1,000 Powered by Lights. There's probably, I don't know, let's say there's still 200 of those hanging around. I'm not saying all this, and I know it must sound like, Mikey wants people to feel sorry for him, but this is just the way things are, and so I don't. This is really tied into the question: what are your band's plans for the future? And we've just started. Fools that we are, we've just started working on music for another album because that's what we do. But we literally just started, and immediately, right off the bat, can't have practice for 3 weeks. So I got to lean. Our guitarist, we got one of the great guitar. I don't even know why he plays with us. We got one of the best guitarists in progressive rock, guy by the name of Peter Matushniak, and he's like friends with Steve Hackett. You know, he's played with a bunch of different bands, but you know, he's got a life. He's trying to start a business unrelated to music, and he's deep into information technology. I'm the only one that doesn't know anything about information technology. Everybody else has some idea what's going on in the modern world. Me, I'm like, duh. But you know, Pete's over in Europe. He's been there for 3 weeks, seeing family because he's from England. You know, our singer, he's got a business. I never thought I'd be playing in a band with a guy whose main business, the main way he supports himself, is that he goes around and harvests the brains of dead people for research purposes. He goes around. He tells me there are 5 people on the East Coast out of the entire population of the East Coast. He says there's 5 people that know how to do what he does. So really? He says he's always busy.
Yeah.
And we'll call band practice, and I'll get a call. Mike, I can't come. I got 2 brains I got to go get.
Oh.
You know.
But you're not giving up. I mean, you will start.
Well, that's
rehearsing, and eventually you will release a fifth album somewhere. You will be sell some of them, right?
Yeah. Mark, my bass player, Mark is available most of the time, but when the summer comes, he plays in this tribute band that does tribute to heavy metal bands. Yeah. You know, it's funny because the costume he wears for his metal act is so fun to me anyway. It's so funny, but he's very good at it, you know, very, very good at it. And so they play out, you know, every they probably get about 50 or 60 shows a year. And they're not in Richmond, so these shows, so he's got to travel. So I don't see him most of the summer. And then there's me, who's driving Lyft for a living.
Yeah. Well, you need to do what you need to do for, you know.
Yeah. You know. So I wound up taking today off so I could do the interview.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You know, so I don't know. I'm real thankful. Let's put it this way. I'm real thankful that in my life I've gotten to do things that I really love to do, want to do. And on the other hand, I've had to look at everything with a grain of salt because it seems like everything is always going wrong. I bought what I thought was a very nice used Leslie cabinet for my organ, right? My Hammond. Well, it's actually a clone of a Hammond, and it sounded real good. And now it's completely on the fritz. I can't afford to have it repaired, so I can't even use it.
Oh, man.
This is the kind of thing that has followed me around forever, this kind of thing. I was 32 years and 8 months driving 18-wheelers, 4 million miles. And right towards the end, and I wasn't ready to stop, but I had a couple of weird safety issues, and they, out of the four of them, only one of them was my fault. But because they happened one right after the other, my employer let me go.
Wow.
Says, you're losing your skills. Your skills are declining. So we appreciate the service you gave us, but we can't take the chance on you driving into a major accident. So I can't drive trucks anymore. It is what it is.
Was the money okay in the,
No,
in the trucking business?
it wasn't what I was doing. It wasn't great, but it was good. It was pretty. The real money in trucking is now, long haul over the road, where you're away for 2 weeks at a time or whatever. And it also depends on what freight you're hauling, because certain types of freight, a company can charge more to the people that want it. For example, I once had a load of robots. You can believe that. I took a load of robots to Ford Motor Company because they were mechanizing their assembly lines.
Yep.
And that load paid my company something like $4,000 to haul, of which I got paid, 40 cents a mile. But it is what it is. I mean, a trucker that's a good, reliable, and has a safe driving record. This truck, like a Walmart driver right now. Those guys are making $105,000, $110,000 a year.
Hey.
But the drivers that drive like local in a city, they might be getting 55 or 60. They come home every day. And then of course there's the guys that have unionized jobs. And that's an interesting thing right there, because the unions are gradually pulling these companies under, because they demand these really exorbitant contracts, and the companies are finding themselves that they just don't have the money to pay them. They don't have the money to pay, for example, pensions.
No.
Right? I was talking to the owner of one company that I worked for a number of years ago, and he said, "Yeah, I'm a supplier of healthcare benefits, and I haul freight on the side."
Yeah, definitely. Well, Mike,
it was killing him.
Yeah, I hope you can, stay with the music and play some gigs.
You could edit
release
out
a new album. The new album is very good, man. Unfortunately, yeah, you're right. So,
and so are you doing what are you up to? I mean, I shouldn't make this all about me. What are you up to?
I see a lot of concerts. I'm very lucky that I have a well-paying job. I'm an IT guy.
Yes, IT is everything, right?
The man is in IT, man. So
and although God only knows what's going to happen with AI now.
I don't know. Maybe we'll disappear as a human species. I don't know.
Well, I remember seeing that article where the robot said, "I intend to destroy you."
Yeah, I don't know. There need to be I don't think it's going to happen, but there's going to be a lot of regulation and take measure taken to.
Everything's going to change.
But everything's going to change. Yeah.
the only question is it going to change in a way that is, beneficial to human beings or not?
That's right. Yeah, there's some jobs that human being, like in a factory or an assembly line, they don't want to do it, right? So,
Right.
but the human being need to be on top of things, because it's going to be a lot of programming, a lot of repairment, and I'm going to get involved. So for me, I'm learning that. As a matter of fact, nowadays I'm learning AI and all that because
you need to.
Because I need to. Yeah, that's what the science is going in that area. So I'm as a IT guy, I need to get my hands on and learn it because there's going to be a lot of work, a lot of job in that area, right?
Sure.
So I need to, be able
And
to
yet
put on
there
the
won't
table for my family, So,
And yet there won't be as many as you think because these machines are going to learn how to repair themselves.
yeah, I hope not.
how to replicate themselves. It just blows my mind, and there's times when I feel like, I'm glad I'm 71.
You are not going to see that revolution.
Because how long can I really live for with all these things I got going on in my body? But I won't have to watch the entire
Human civilization,
the entirety of civilization collapse.
Yeah.
I mean, and then because there's other stuff too, Claudio, that really has me concerned. What's going on with the banking system because of what's available to do with electronics, with technology. I have to wonder where the money system is headed.
Well, before you know it, robots are going to be playing rock music, man.
It wouldn't surprise me. And they'll kick out the human beings and say this is robot music.
Yeah, you will go. 10 years from now, you will go to a gigs and it won't be Rick Wakeman or it won't be Steve Hackett guy and Genesis guys, and they're going to be robot playing keyboards.
Well, like I said, I feel like I'm fortunate that I've gotten to meet some of these guys.
Sure.
In fact, you mentioned Patrick. I guess it was in 2020 or 2019. I went to the Rites of Spring Festival. That's ROSfest for short. ROS, Rites of Spring.
Right.
And it was in Sarasota. And turns out that that's where Patrick lives.
Yeah.
And Patrick showed up at the festival just to be there, just to come down. And I got a chance to meet and hang out with him and a couple of other of the really good keyboard players that were there. And I actually got invited by Patrick to his studio.
Wow.
And I guess the four of us were kind of showing each other things that were in the process of composing, and it was a great feeling. Because I still remember him, the young Moraz with the gigantic mane of black hair. He doesn't look like that anymore. His hair is fairly short. I mean, he definitely looks his age, but he can still sit down at his piano and let it rip. Boy, I want to tell you, he's just a.
But some people are able to survive. I mean, I don't think Patrick Moraz is poor, right? I mean, he makes enough, or he have done well for himself, or.
I don't know what his situation is. All I know is he has a house down there and a studio.
Yeah,
that's all I know about it.
Yeah,
and he has worked on a number of musical projects over the years that I had never heard of because I lost track of them.
I hope he get royalties, but like you say at the beginning, right? it's very difficult to make it into a music business. You know, one of 100, one of 500 will make it and make a good living, but the rest will struggle, right? So
well, the that's one of the things that's frustrating about playing the genre I'm in is the bands, the best known bands and artists are not succeeding in supporting themselves. They all have day jobs, and they're all in IT. Well, you know who is? Oh, you know how Kinetic Element got started?
No, go.
Just quickly. Kinetic Element got started because I was trucking, and I would come off the road every so often when I would come home, and I would say, geez, I wish I had a keyboard here, because I didn't even have my Hammond at that point, because my first wife had made me give it away, get it out of the house, because it was taking up too much room. But anyway, what was I going to say now? Where was I?
You were trying to get it off the road.
Oh yeah. So I went to a music store here in Chesterfield County in Richmond, and I was looking to buy something like a Techniques living room piano, like an electronic piano, but it's just something that I could amuse myself with when I got home. Well, so I'm looking at this thing, and it cost I think it was $1,000 or $1,100, and the salesman said, well, if you're looking to save money, why don't you look at this one over here? And he showed me something that was made by a company called Alesis, the Alesis QS 7.1. And I remember I sat down and I started to play on it. And he said, now this unit will cost you $900 less. That's right, because the other one was way expensive. This one will cost you $900 less, and it's got 1,100 more sounds. I said, dude, package one up for me.
That's right. I'm taking one home.
Took it home, and I found the section of this instrument that had pipe organs. And I remember going, oh my God, this thing sounds great. Because I've always had this soft spot for J.S. Bach and Franz Liszt's organ works, things like that. And it had great Fender Rhodes sounds in it. And I went to by that time I had met a few musicians around here, and they were having these weekend jams, and I was asked to come and jam with these guys. And so I went and made a big impression, which was nice. But I remember that was when I met Michael, my drummer, also. And we decided, I've got this instrument, let's do something with it, right? And Kinetic Element was born.
Well,
years later, I found out that one of the truly great keyboardists in progressive rock, who's also in IT, a guy by the name of Eric Norland, used to work at Alesis, and he designed that synthesizer that I was playing on.
Wow.
Right? And so Eric Norlander and his work really is the reason why Kinetic Element exists.
Exists, yeah.
Because if I hadn't played that instrument, I don't know if I would have ever done anything.
Sure.
Right? But I got a chance to see him. I met him a couple of times at ROSfest, and I remember I was there was this afternoon, afternoon event going on where there were 3 or 4 keyboardists on with a bunch of synthesizers that were playing and entertaining the people in between the bands. In between bands, you could go out in this big garden, and here were all these synthesizers that were set up. And there's Eric Norlander. And I just walked up to him and I explained to him, I said, "You're the reason my band even exists."
Wow.
And later on, and he looked at me like he couldn't believe it. He put this huge grin on his face, right? And as it got to the end of this little event, I asked the moderator there if I could address the audience, because I wanted to tell everybody that.
The story, yeah.
And I just said, this is just an example of how people working far, and living far apart, who don't even know each other, and yet their work can influence somebody to do something with their life that they would not otherwise have done.
That's right. Yeah.
And so I got to shake Eric's hand and get a big hug, and all of that kind of thing.
Good for you, man. Good for you.
But that's how. If Eric Norlander hadn't been working at Alesis,
that's right.
I would have never. That synthesizer would have never been designed. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so that's it. That's that story.
Yeah. Thank you very much for telling the story. Hey, Mike, man, it was very nice talking to you. I'm quite sure we'll do a part 2 and a part 3 with a lot more stories, and I will look into that Prog Rock Festival, and I will let you know if I'm going, and I will bring you something.
Just get online anywhere. Put it on. You put it in a search engine, or go on Facebook, or bring up Prog Stock.
Yep.
And you'll see, where it is and how much it costs and who's
playing over. Yeah.
This year, and
good.
And all I can tell you is, I don't care who's playing, whether you've heard of them or not.
Yeah.
Go. And you'll hear some music that you never heard before, and you'll want to hear more of it.
Absolutely. Well, I will bring with 2 bags of CDs.
Well, if you go and see my friend Greg Walker at the symphonic table, he goes down there with like several thousand CDs, and he'll he's got everything categorized by country, and you just tell him, can you recommend if you like jazz rock, or jazz fusion, he'll point you to that. If you like symphonic, this kind of stuff that I play, he'll point you to that.
All right.
You can tell him you met me.
That's right. He will give me a couple free ones for this discount.
Or charge you double, depending.
No, I hope not. All right, Mike. It was very nice talking to you. Good luck to you, man, and thank you for taking the day off and spending
Claudio, thank you. You rock, as I love to say. And I don't know. I guess if you really want to do it again sometime, we can.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, we will, man. Thank you very much, man. Have a great evening, man. Bye. Bye, Mike. Bye.